Recordings in progress. Yep. Good evening. Good evening. We will call to order the Thursday, July 2nd, 2026 meeting of the Los Osos Community Services District Board of Directors. Will you join me for the flag salute, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, could we have a roll call, please?
Director Cross.
Here.
Director Hubbard.
Present.
Director Womack.
Present.
Vice President Sesenia.
I'm here.
President Porkroy.
Lucky guy, he's on vacation. Okay, so announcement of closed session items. We will have conference with real property negotiators pursuant to Government Code 54956.8. This is regarding Sunnyside School and the negotiations with the San Luis Coastal Unified School District. Anything else you want to add? Okay, we will adjourn to close.
Just so we do take public comment.
Oh, public comment. That would be good before. Yeah.
If you're online, please raise your hand, and in the boardroom, come to the podium. There is no public comment online.
Okay, nor here in the boardroom. Now we will adjourn to closed session. Okay, we will reconvene the Thursday, July 2nd, 2026 meeting of the Los Osos Community Services District back to open session. And do we have any reportable action out of closed session?
No reportable actions.
Okay, no reportable action from closed session. So with that, we'll move on to agenda item 6, a presentation, a proclamation for Utility Systems Manager Margaret Faulkner, probably the longest serving district employee, maybe somebody in the water? Frank. Sorry, Margaret, I tried to get you to the top. So we have a proclamation. We have something to read?
We do. You haven't.
No, I don't.
Oh, it's in here, I think.
Oh, I thought I just signed something that. Oh,
That page shows.
okay.
I got it.
Oh, you're right. Thanks, Tom.
Sorry about that.
There it is. Okay. So, this is a proclamation from the Los Osos Community Services District Board of Directors commending Margaret Faulkner for her service to Los Osos. Whereas the Los Osos Community Service District recognizes and celebrates the dedicated public service of Margaret Faulkner and her lasting contributions to the Los Osos community. And whereas Margaret Faulkner has faithfully served the LOCSD for 18 years and 8 months, second place. But that's because you took some time out and went somewhere else for a while. Anyway, she's demonstrated exceptional leadership in the management, operation, and maintenance of the district's utility systems, ensuring the reliable delivery of essential services to our community. And whereas her expertise, diligence, and commitment to operational excellence have contributed significantly to the protection of public health, environmental stewardship, regulatory compliance, and long-term sustainability of district infrastructure. Whereas Margaret has earned the respect and admiration of her colleagues, community members, and industry professionals through her integrity, collaborative spirit, and dedication to public service. And whereas her contributions have strengthened the LOCSD and helped us advance our mission of providing safe, efficient, and dependable services to the community. And whereas her years of service reflect a deep commitment to the residents of Los Osos and leave a lasting legacy that will benefit the district for years to come. Now, therefore, be it resolved That the Board of Directors of the Los Osos Community Services District hereby recognizes and honors Margaret Faulkner for her outstanding service as the Utility Systems Manager and expresses its sincere gratitude for her many contributions to the district and the community. Be it further resolved that the board extends its best wishes to Margaret Faulkner for continued success, happiness, and fulfillment in all future endeavors, dated the 2nd of July, 2026. 18 years. This goes in frame.
Flowers will become maybe something that maybe would live longer. Just every day. And of course, the card from the whole team.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much.
That's what I just read. A lot of whereases, but they're all true. They're all true. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Because Margaret did leave for a while and then she came back and worked for us. And I'm so happy about that.
Says Ron was here.
Yeah, Ron, yes, yeah, Rod talked to her. Yeah, that was about the time that happened.
Yep.
Okay. And that water bottle is my favorite water bottle. Margaret gave me that as a gift for helping you when you moved away. And then you came back. There you go. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I'd like to just say something while we have her here. I started as a volunteer on the Utility Advisory Committee, and that was during our turbulent years. Not saying even closely how bad it was. And Margaret was here through that time, had to step up several times to be the interim general manager as the door opened and closed on the rotation. So she had a steady hand with us for so long, provided all of us, like in the committees, with all the information we needed. Bringing her back, I think, was just full circle because when she left, it wasn't on the greatest terms. And so I wanted to make sure she finished her career here on what I feel are good terms. So anyway, I really appreciate Margaret. We'll miss you. I've already spent the last 2 days trying to do the work you do on regulatory compliance, and I wanted to call you a couple of times.
Again, thank you, Margaret.
Would you
Okay,
like me to
at
take
this-
public comment?
Oh, yes, public comment for agenda item 6.
Before
If
we
you're
go
online-
into public comment, I just wanted to see if there are any motions to reorder the agenda as.
Oh, yes, I was just going to get through this item first, but we do need to revise our agenda order tonight. Procedurally, we've been advised that it would be prudent to move agenda item 9A, which is certifying the Measure B26 election, before the agenda item 8A, where the board is being asked to approve the Parks and Recreation tax. So with that, I would like to make a motion to reorder the agenda here to hear item 9A before 8A.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Okay, any opposed? Okay, that's how we're gonna
Can I
work the
get
agenda
who-
tonight.
Can I get who seconded the motion? Their microphone was muted.
Forgive me, I second, Tom Cross.
Tom.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, we'll go to public comment for agenda item 6.
If you're online, please raise your hand, and in the boardroom, come to the podium.
We have one here in the boardroom. If the microphone will cooperate.
Oh,
I'll hold it.
there you go.
Richard Margetson, Ron mentioned, she was here during the turbulent times. She was here before Chuck was on the board.
Oh, yeah.
2003, I think she started part-time. The reason I wanted to make a comment through all of the turmoil, and for those of you who weren't here through that, she witnessed things. I told her outside before the meeting, she should spend a couple months and write a book of what she witnessed and what she knows. I think in this town, that would probably be a bestseller. But through all of it, and I think we all experienced that, she was professional. She didn't, you could tell she maybe had thoughts or opinions, but she never showed them and never expressed them to one side or the other. She was always accommodating when we come in to get a packet that we would have to make a public records request for. She was always there to make sure it was picked up and available. Somebody said about being prepared for all the committee meetings. And she was the anchor during all of the turmoil between all of the general managers. Somebody had to be appointed interim general manager, and every time it was Margaret. And she didn't get frustrated to the point of walking away during those times when a lot of people probably would have said, I've had enough. This is crazy. I know the last few years have been much easier on her from what she experienced 10, 15 years, 20 years ago. Um, she is the second longest running employee in the district. Her expertise is part of the reason we got to this point. And you've heard me a number of times talk about Ron and I being on the members of the rate committee. Actually, the first attempt at a rate study, I can't remember the general manager's name, but was Margaret, myself, and that general manager I tried to remember who that general manager. It was a gentleman. I bet it was way back. That was before we started doing it. So she's been involved in a lot in this community. She's also been a member of People Helping People, very generous, community minded. I wish her the best in retirement. She will be missed by the district. And I made the comment about Ron's proclamation being put up in this office. You guys don't do this very often, and there's very few people that will deserve the type of proclamations you've done the last couple of months, but I think Margaret should hang here in the room too. So, and I would be fine with paying for the framing or whatever needed to be done. So thank you, Margaret, for your kindness and professionalism all these years. Good luck in retirement. Enjoy.
And then online, it's just me. But I just want to thank Margaret for the last 6 years. It's been such an honor getting to work with her. I'm not sure if many of you know, but Margaret was instrumental in helping us get the $1.5 million grant for the program Well with Ron and Wallace group. And that's like a huge accomplishment and a huge help to our community. And Margaret she's always put the district first. And I've always greatly appreciated her just kindness, her calm demeanor. And she's just been an excellent person to work with. And there's no other comment on mine.
Okay, thank you for that. I'm kind of reminded of something I heard on the news tonight. A commentator at this time of year, the 250th commemoration of the nation's founding, talking about troops and how they need to maintain neutrality. They have a allegiance pledge to the Constitution, not to an administration, not to a body, not to anyone. They serve this guiding principle, the district in this case. And those were troubled times. It would have been real easy to pick one side or the other, to remain neutral in that. I don't think I could have done it. So thank you. And with that, we'll move on to agenda item 7, public safety reports.
It does not look like the fire department is online, but both the sheriff department and the CHP is.
Okay, then we'll go on to the sheriff's department report.
Good afternoon, Commander Boss here. Looking at our call statistics for the month of June, we had a total of 413 calls for service, which included 49 preventative patrol activities and 38 enforcement stops. And just want to remind everybody to have a safe 4th of July. And remember, fireworks are prohibited in the Los Osos area, and we will be enforcing them with zero tolerance over this weekend, including the county code that has been updated to include various civil penalties that are going to be at our disposal, as well as the criminal penalties for illegal fireworks. So that's what I have, unless anybody else has anything for me.
Anything from the board here? No, we want to wish you safety through this weekend. You and the community, everyone, let's just be sane and safe and live to report back next month. So yeah, with that, thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
California Highway Patrol.
Good evening, everyone. I saw Margaret just took a step out, hearing all the accolades you guys gave her. I actually wished I had an opportunity to get to know her as well. She seems like she's an amazing person with a great character. So I wish her the best in her retirement. And you guys are very honored to have an employee such as her. So moving on to the crashes that we had in the second quarter. We had 23 total crashes, one hit and run crash, 15 property damage only crashes. We had 5 crashes that involved minor injuries where somebody didn't have to go to the hospital. And we had one major injury. And that one I'll dive in a little bit deeper on. It was a motorcycle crash that was solo. Ended up, with the individual, the rider, suffered major injuries on that. And we had one DUI crash for the second quarter. Overall, as an area for the San Luis Obispo, I'd like to highlight some of our statistics that we ended up having. We wrote just over 3,300 citations. We wrote over 1,400 verbal citations where tickets weren't given. We made 168 arrests, with 138 of those being DUI, and we took 290 crashes for the entire area. Today starts our holiday enforcement period. It starts from 6 p.m. and runs through midnight on Sunday. We have additional resources that are out there looking for DUIs and speed. So I encourage anybody, if you see somebody that thinks impaired, please call 911. It's okay to call 911. I'd like to impress that message as much as I can to people and let them know, get a hold of our dispatch, and hopefully we can get an officer out there and take that impaired driver off the road as well. With that, if you guys have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer.
Can you tell me if any of the crashes, has anything happened around the bridge construction on South Bay Boulevard, or have we been behaving ourselves?
I think everybody's been pretty much behaving themselves with that. I
Good.
can look back into that and report back to you as well.
Well, it sounds like nothing major has been out there.
Right.
So, I mean, that's just good news. I'm glad that the community is cooperating, because construction zones can be, they can be dangerous. And again, we wish the same to you, a safe and not too busy weekend.
Thank you. You guys as well. Be safe.
Okay, with that, we'll go on to the switched agenda, action item 9A. Adopt a resolution declaring Measure B26 election results. Receive and file a revenue and expenditure overview. Yes.
Thank you, Director Sesenya. So yeah, this is agenda item 9A. Not really a surprise to anyone in the room. Measure B26 passed. It passed with 3,465 votes for, and there were 2,943 votes against, and there were 314 undervotes and overvotes. So those results are now official from the county. To give a broad overview of the expenditures and revenues. So B26 provides for a parcel tax that amounts to $185 per year per parcel. And the structure is broken down into 2 categories. First is acquisition, and that's an $85 a year per parcel for acquisition related expenses. We estimate that will bring in $511,700. And that amount does not change, and it goes away after 15 years. And then there's operations and maintenance, and that is $100 per parcel per year, with annual increases based on the CPI. And that's that property tax does not go away. In the first year, we expect it will collect $602,000. Beyond that, for revenues, Sunnyside currently has a lease on it with the Waldorf School, and that lease pays approximately $175,000 annually. There are also a number of unoccupied facilities on the site. I personally took a tour of the site, and I estimate that if the CSD were to move up there, we'd only need 25 to to 40% of that space, and the rest is leasable. And so, the district could have additional opportunities to earn lease revenue there. And then finally, the district can always allocate funds from Zone A into the Sunnyside site through the Parks and Rec Fund, Fund 900. For expenditures, these were examined and prior to the tax, of course. And so we do have some breakdowns for acquisition and O&M. I would just want to say that the previous general manager, Mr. Munns, who's sitting here today, put a lot of work into these estimates and worked with Wallace Group on some estimates for facility and field maintenance. So why don't we just skip to that, since I believe most of the folks in this room have seen this. I think it's just best if we go over this table because it's all here. So for acquisition, we expect around $511,000 to come in through taxes. And of that, the lease payments we're expecting to be $444,000. Again, we don't have a final deal with the school district. So that was the estimate that was used to develop the tax. And then $67,000 or so can be used for other acquisition related expenses such as due diligence and administration related to the property. And that totals the same amount as comes in from the tax. On the O&M side, you have the $602,000 from the tax, another $175,000 from the lease. We could get other leases, so that's an unknown amount. We just put varies there. And the revenue totals are around $777,000. Again, an estimate. We do have what we expect to be a tax bill of around $72,000 a year. By moving up there, however, assuming that we move up there, which I think is a pretty good assumption, we could save up to $40,000 annually. And so that's a credit there in that column. And utilities and operations, we think could cost up to $150,000, insurance $70,000, and then maintenance of the site a little over $400,000, bringing us to around $658,000 with a net of $118,900 according to our best estimate right now. And what could that money be used for? Well, could be used for additional property or facilities maintenance or management. If there's anything that's unexpected there, and it's it'll be our property, we'll have an obligation to deal with those things. So we could use that money for those types of items. Unanticipated operating cost increases, insurance would be a good example. The cost of water would be a good example, which we don't have control of at that site. Minor capital needs, recreational programming. There might be a desire by the district board to put together some programming, some events up there, and also development of a limited reserve for future capital projects, which are bound to come. Just one thing that's not up here is we could also use that additional money for grant match if we find any grants that require match. Moving on. There's a discussion in the staff report about a master planning process. I'm not sure if that was ever explicitly a goal that was identified by the district board before I came. I know that there was some important stakeholder engagement events and work that was done by staff and by the district board. I know Wallace Group came out. They had some concept plans, and folks were voting on them with stickers on the board and that kind of thing. That's a really useful starting point for what could become something like a final design for the park. But I feel the need to say out loud that no master plan exists currently for this park. And so we are getting a lot of good ideas about what we can do there. We're getting a lot of good heads up on different grants that are out there. But the question is, how do we choose what to do? Some of these ideas could be competing with one another. Some of these ideas maybe haven't been completely vetted. We have a very unique site where there's a future park next to a school. Where does the school boundary end? Does it end right at the end of their building? Obviously not. If we have pickleball next to a classroom where a 12-year-old is doing algebra, is that going to work out? Maybe not. So we have to think about all those things. First, in my view, it's clear that the public is ready to help. They're ready to volunteer. I've heard that. I've talked to people. There are folks who want to start writing grants. But a master plan would, if we do that first, it would help us understand what grant opportunities we want that would implement the overall vision of the park rather than the grants driving the vision of the park, right? So it's a pretty important first step into what could be or has the potential to be a unified park that makes sense through the board's vision. So what could the master planning process look like? Well, it could be a lot of things. And it's, I think there is sort of a time consideration here. We don't want to do this for years and years, right? But it could be a couple more public workshops, open houses, that sort of thing. One thought that occurred to me is that you had a lot of excitement when this was coming out. And so a lot of people who were for the park came. Maybe other people decided that they were just not going to vote for this and weren't interested. Well, the park we build will be for everyone, not just for the voters who voted for it. And so we'd want to get really everyone's input. I'm sure some folks against the measure came too, and I've heard that. But it's worth thinking through kind of what everybody wants and how this park would be used. We, of course, would be meeting with community organizations and stakeholder groups. There's some stakeholder groups that already put a lot into this, and we want to include their vision. Potentially surveys and other opportunities for public input, maybe some online surveys. Some refinement of the conceptual alternatives that exist now. I mean, I think they're a good starting point. In my view, they're not quite grant ready yet. We still need a little work there. Preparation of a comprehensive master plan, identification of phased implementation priorities, and this is maybe the big thing here is creation of a potential steering committee. So what would a steering committee look like, and why don't we already have that with the Parks and Rec Advisory Committee? Because I think that's a good question, and I would imagine that's what's up front in folks' minds. Well, with a with a steering committee, we could really tap into community expertise. We know that there's folks in Los Osos who, for their livelihood, for their career, do parks development, landscape architecture, parks planning, property management, building management, rec. I'm sure there's people in this community that have experience there. Architecture, engineering, and the arts. And I apologize for a few typos here that I'm seeing now. The arts is not lowercase on purpose for anyone in the arts. And they're not last on purpose. So we know these folks are here. They're not necessarily on the board of directors. They're not necessarily on the Parks and Rec Committee. I don't necessarily have this background. And so, it would be an interesting opportunity to bring people together. It would be like a think tank, and it would probably have to be a public body. We've worked that out with our district council. But if the board was interested in seeing this, my proposal would be that we'd return back to this group on August 6th and propose a kind of very clear structure. And our job in the meanwhile would be figuring out, what is the exact structure, who should be on it. Is it maybe 2 members from the Parks and Rec Committee? Is it a couple members from the board? Are there people who really want to be on it? Are there people we want to seek out and ask for their participation based on their, what they do for a living? So that's the idea there. Could be some local subject matter experts. I know we have some here. One that was brought to my attention that was a professor of like parks planning, so who lives part-time in Osos. So to conclude that thought, staff believes a master plan, once started, could be completed within 6 months, even with this steering committee. I actually say 6 to 8 months. I'm really hoping for 6. Which would align well with our current estimate for the district occupancy of the site, which is not until January anyway. So just sort of a reminder to everyone out there listening, we don't have occupancy of the site. We don't even have a final deal yet with the school district. So I know folks are excited to get involved, but it is premature at this time to, put out grant applications yet. It's there's still some other steps that need to be taken first, but that should be the end there, and we'll take any questions.
Anything from board members? Thoughts?
Steering committee sounds like a good idea to me.
Oh, absolutely. But I want to make sure, I think we need a professional consultant, somebody to kind of drive the effort, because we don't want competing factions from the community trying to grab the thing and run with it. I think a professional can help focus and keep all of those interests aligned. So the extra O&M money, it seems to me right up front, that goes to the master plan. Because I agree with everything you say. Without a master plan, no one wants to issue grants. The grant should not be driving the plan. We need to know what we want and then find out how to go after it. Not look at what's available and how we can grab that and maybe make it work. So I agree with everything you said, but I think that any extra O&M money up front, or we may need to seed that with Zone A money or something. But I do want to, I think the master plan is critical, and I think a consultant needs to be the backbone. One other thing that I saw reading through the staff report, talked about Zone A money, 900 reserves, unallocated cash, the pool money. You know how sensitive that is. I think it's time for this community to make some decisions about that. And I don't know any other way to do that except try and find out who started that effort. Is there a log of contributions? We go to those people first and say, do you want it back? We cannot put that to the community to decide what to do with. That doesn't seem fair. I don't even know if we have those records. Was that a CSD effort?
That we have a history of it, a binder.
Yeah.
That outlines all of that.
Okay.
And it would that the money was collected by the county.
Right.
And then there was the citizens group that collected some money, but that was spent on a feasibility study for the pool. And then the remainder of what they had in their coffers went to the city of Morro Bay to ensure that Los Osos residents would be able to have in-town, rates to use that pool. It wasn't very much money. So when the county gave it to the CS, or deeded that property tax, it was actually a property tax that they quit collecting because it was instituted right at the time of 218, and it didn't go to a vote, so they decided to discontinue it. So
Yeah, I didn't remember that.
yeah, and long story short, I don't want to get into the full history. That could take a whole hour. The money came to the district as Parks and Rec money. It came into us. We can use it at our discretion for parks and recreation activities.
That changes everything. If it was property tax driven, not just contributions, then I made contributions to it.
The property tax was much more than contributions. The totals are in the binder.
Okay. Well, that's the first place we start. And if people made contributions,
But see, that money I think was spent.
okay, on the feasibility studies and that kind of thing. You just, all right, changed my whole way of thinking about this. Okay, thank you. That's good information. We need a master plan still. So any other thoughts from the board members on that?
So I just wanted to clarify, you wanted to hire a consultant to kind of lead and synergize the discussion of all the other experts on the steering committee? I think that's a really good idea. I think that makes a lot of sense.
I think so. You need, again, a professional without any skin in the game. Somebody can be neutral. I'm not going to push this agenda, that agenda, because that's what happens when it's a community-driven, and it has to be community participation. I mean, we got, like you said, all the experts. We got people who know things. We just need someone to channel that. So, yeah, that's my thought.
I think that makes a lot of sense. Do you think that's doable?
Okay, is it
I
time for?
do, yeah, if I could just chime
Yeah.
in there to Tom's question. Certainly a consultant needs to be involved because we're going to be looking at site plans and we need professional opinions in some cases. And a consultant will have structure to it. I don't, I think involving a consultant as lead could make this a longer process, right? Because what then happens is we're kind of going with a proposal that they've developed and that, we can negotiate with them. But, in my view, it might add some time to a master planning process. I, of course, have no problem with that, and I'm happy to implement that through a consultant. But I did just want to throw out there that it could be a little bit more time consuming if they were leading it rather than supporting it.
What do you see the difference being between lead and support?
I think supporting is, again, helping develop the concept plans, bringing their expertise in during the process when needed, having someone who's kind of done the work before of building a park. Now, if we're looking at having them sort of organize community members with specialized expertise, setting up meetings and things like that, we lose a little bit of control there. And I just in my experience with consultants, it could mean that we lose a little bit of control over the timeline as well. Because now the consultants feels like they have deliverables and that they have to prepare certain things and certain reports, that if they're leading it, yeah. I haven't thought through the idea fully, but
Sure.
That's my gut reaction.
Yeah, I just think we need someone involved, kind of like a referee. And whether they're responsible for setting up the meetings and the agendas or whether it's Parks and Rec, I'm not too locked into that. But almost as a referee, just to kind of be able to say timeout when one's needed. I mean, I've been through the troubles here in this town, and well, yeah. So anyway, yeah, we'll let you take that where it needs to go. Public comment. Is it time for public comment on agenda item 9A? Is that where we're
It
at?
is.
Yeah. Okay.
If you're online, please raise your hand and in the boardroom, come to the podium. I do have one online. Would you like to start online?
Yes.
All right, Jeff, you just have to unmute yourself.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Jeff Edwards, and it appears tonight is the official start of Fourcroy's Folly. And it's too bad that he's not here to enjoy it. The vision for Sunnyside that I've heard so far is laughable, really. A hodgepodge of tenants with little to do with active recreation, which is what you sold the voters on. Unfortunately, there will be very little active recreation at the end of the situation. And all this is a ruse to keep the private property owners from developing the site. I'm not sure when you'll live that down or when Fourcroy will, but I wanted to refer to the expenditures and the revenues that staff showed you. You have, based on the estimates, which I think have a lot of work to do to refine, you have a cushion of $120,000 approximately. That's $10,000 a month. And that doesn't appear to include any admin. And you have roughly $1 million in admin every year. And I would submit to this board that you're going to use 30 to 50% of that. So that's $300 to $500,000 a year for admin attributed to Fund 900. You're in the red right out of the gate. You'll blow through the pool funds in the first year. They're gone. So I don't know what any of you are thinking about who's going to pick up the negatives, the negative cash flows. Then there will be negative cash flows. Not to mention this question of master planning and hiring consultants, civil engineers, architects. You have to be kidding. Then there's permits. Who's going to get the permits that you need? The land use permits or building permits? Who's going to apply for grants? The utilities, they want to bring purple pipe to Sunnyside. Who's going to pay for all that just to push the paperwork? Then there's property management of the tenants, recreation programming. That's again laughable. And the district is going to move to Sunnyside. What is that going to cost? Just the move. I'm curious about that. We're talking hundreds of hours of staff time. Where's the Citizens Coalition? How come the room isn't packed with those folks tonight? Are they going to pick up the negative cash flows? My recommendation to you is provide the Citizens Coalition a master lease, triple net. You will pick up everything that the voters and property owners have agreed to pay, but somebody has to pick up the deficit, and that should be the Citizens Coalition. So that's my recommendation. You need a plan B, and so far I don't think you have one other than maybe a think tank.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments.
You're welcome.
All right, Andrea, you just have to unmute yourself.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great, thank you. This is Andrea Luker, 40-plus year resident of Los Osos, which is kind of amazing. Listen to the report tonight. Thank you very much, Director Kwolek. The master plan makes sense. I think there are certainly some people either locally or regionally that will be able to help us with this. I think the steering committee makes sense. Again, we have a lot of smart people in Los Osos that will be able to provide great information. And just overall, thank you for all your work on this project. It's so important to keep this valuable community asset within your realm. And I also appreciate that you are focusing the fact that this is a community directed effort. So again, thanks, and looking forward to this incredible opportunity for Los Osos.
There's no further public comment online.
Okay, none here in the boardroom. So we'll entertain a motion about this.
I'll move that the board adopt resolution 2026-25 declaring Measure B 26 election results held on June 2nd, 2026. Receive and file revenue and expenditure overview and provide input on a Sunnyside Park master plan process.
I'll second that.
Okay, you believe you've got direction on item 3 there?
I do, thank you.
I need to do a roll call check.
Yes, we need a roll call. It's a resolution.
Yes, Director Womack,
Yes.
Director Hubbard,
Yes.
Director Cross,
Yes.
Vice President Sesenia.
Yes. Thank you. So with that, we'll jump back to the public hearing, agenda item 8A. Public hearing to adopt resolution submitting the following fiscal year 26-27 assessments and special tax rolls to the San Luis Obispo County for collection. And that's all of the various aspects of your property taxes, drainage, fire prevention, now parks and recreation, wastewater assessments. Some of the subdivisions have little special street lighting assessments. So, Mr. Kwolek, what do you have for us?
Well, Greg's going to allow me to do this presentation just so I don't get out of practice. So, anyway, thank you, Director, and thank you, Greg, for letting me present this one. This one is something we do every July. I know it's We used to do, if you remember back, we'd open a public hearing for each item, but then we finally got smart and were able to roll them all into one item with separate actions for each. So as Chuck mentioned, these are the assessments that we're following for Bay Ridge State Annual Service Charge, Vista de Oro Annual Service Charge, drainage tax, fire protection and prevention services special tax, our brand new Los Osos CSD Park and Recreation tax, number one wastewater assessments, which is nearing its end of life. We've still got a few years, but we're getting closer and closer on that one. And then the ones that are unfortunate, but we do have to do delinquent water charges. That's where we file with a lien on some properties for delinquent charges for both water and solid waste. I don't know if you have much more on there. Here's the actual costs or the numbers that are in the packet. I wanted to note that, you know, our fire tax, which we know we've talked a lot about over the years, we will be looking at that seriously coming up, but that it's still very affordable for the community. And then with the new Parks and Recreation tax, we're real excited, just as we've heard before, about the opportunities that's going to present. Is there one more slide there, Greg? So in accordance with our Title II, and this is referencing the delinquent bills. So this is just the reference in our title that gives us in for the water delinquent bills. And this is also something that we have in our solid waste ordinance as well. And that basically unpaid obligations run with the land and shall create the lien. And this is the same general language in our code's Title IV Solid Waste Code. So anyway, I know the presentation is brief, but this is a very important measure. We have to get this, the resolutions passed so we can get this on over to the county so they can prepare the tax rolls. I did want to do a shout out to the county's tax collector office. The Parks and Rec tax was a rush. We had missed their deadline, and Jim Hamilton and Aaron Stoddard, who is actually in the tax collector's office, made an exception for us because of the circumstances and how much the delay in collecting those taxes would have impacted our ability to move forward.
Thank you to them.
Yes, absolutely. That kind of speaks to relationships.
Right.
Any questions from the board? I have one. You got my hopes up. Wastewater assessment. I thought that didn't end until 2034.
Well, that's coming up, Chuck.
That was
You know,
33.
you are talking to a guy who lived 17 years with a Coleman 2-burner camp stove as his cooktop. So you're right.
Hmm.
Okay, public comment on agenda item 8A.
If you're online, please raise your hand, and in the boardroom, come to the podium. There is no public comment online.
Okay, we have here in the boardroom.
Richard Margetson, I just want to remind you again, community just voted for 185 for parks. Fire is 112.30 this year. At some point down the road, we're going to need an increase. Parks are great. I hope there's just as big an effort to get 2/3 of this community to vote for the next fire tax. Because I've said this before, parks are great, but parks never saved anybody's life. And there was a mandate when this was passed 21 years ago, that we get to 4.0 staffing at some point. And I think that's the next step. And I think we need to be diligent in making that happen and putting the same effort that was given to get Sunnyside into securing safety for this community and emergency response into the future. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. No matter how good we take pride in our service, we could improve to the 4.0 level. No doubt about that. So with that, I'll entertain a motion for agenda item 8A.
Just before a motion, if you could formally close the public hearing. Just,
Oh, the public, oh, forgot that we opened a public hearing. Okay, with that, we'll close the public hearing.
thank you.
It's a reminder.
Yes, thank you, Counselor. Now I'll entertain a motion.
Okay, I'll do it. I move that the board adopt resolutions 2026-17, 2026-18, 2026-19, 2026-20, 2026-21, 2026-22, 23, and 24 to levy the charges, special taxes, and assessments as listed separately in Exhibit A for Bay Ridge Estates, Vista de Oro, drainage, fire protection, and prevention services. Los Osos CSD Parks and Recreation District 1 wastewater services, district delinquent water charges, and district delinquent solid waste charges, and direct staff to submit adopted resolutions and tax rolls to the county for collection.
I'll second that.
Okay, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Director Womack,
Yes.
Director Hubbard,
Yes.
Director Cross,
Yes.
Vice President Sesenia.
Yes, and thank you for reading that mouthful.
And being the
I had
one
enough
officially
trouble with
tackling
resolution earlier,
public.
as you could tell. Okay, so that takes care of that item of business.
Are harder, I think. Thank you for that.
Now we're on to general action item 9B, adopt a resolution amending and updating the district's personnel policy. General Manager Wall.
Thank you, Vice President and members of Board of Directors. Staff is bringing to you a request to update and amend the district personnel policy. As we all know, the personnel policy, not just the personnel, but the personnel policy governs district employment practices. And we recently conducted a review of the policy to look at opportunities to improve administrative efficiency, strengthen alignment with the district board manager structure, improve recruitment and retention practices, and update provisions to reflect current employment law and best practices. I think this comes semi-annually to the board. Usually it's in the context of an MOU has been signed with the bargaining group, and the personnel policy is updated to correspond with the updates in that agreement. We did a little bit of a deeper dive this time, and so we found some things that we are recommending for update. And District Council also had a chance to review the proposed amendments and supports the recommended changes that we brought forth tonight. So 4 areas that we looked at here. One was governance and administrative authority. Another was recruitment and retention, policy modernization, and legal compliance. So we'll start with government and administrative authority. Several of the proposed amendments clarify the respective roles of the board of directors and the general manager regarding personnel administration. As we know, the district operates under a board manager form of government, in which the board establishes policy and evaluates the general manager, while the general manager is responsible for the day-to-day administration of district operations, including personnel management. And so to better align with that structure, we recommend the following amendments in this category. Clarify that the general manager has authority to select applicants for employment and make hiring decisions. Authorize the general manager to establish initial compensation for employees within board-approved salary ranges. Authorize the general manager to approve advanced step appointments when recruitment conditions warrant it. Authorize the general manager to implement board-approved cost of living adjustments for exempt employees other than the general manager. And require approval by the general manager for outside employment. I just want to make a general comment here. Some of these, the general manager already has some authority over, but then it overlaps depending on the situation. In the case of the last one, there's a policy for outside employment by our employees. You know, we obviously would never want one of our employees having employment somewhere else that is in conflict with their employment with the district. but there's no way to really look at that or enforce that in the personnel policy. So in that case, I'd like it to be added in there that the general manager would review and approve these kinds of things. So it's sort of a cleanup in that case. And before I go to the next category, are there any questions from this category? I also have some slides where we have the red lines if anyone wants to see them. But otherwise, we're just going to look at it at a high level.
Your third bullet point.
Yes.
I want to make sure I understand that. So what you're saying is that the board approves a certain salary range and step increases. And if you want to bring somebody in other than at the bottom step, you feel like based on their history and their experience, that maybe we should even start them at the top step. But you want that authority?
Yes, and really we can look at it as flexibility. I mean, it's rare that for higher level positions we're getting someone who's brand new. They, in fact, may even be a 15-year, 20-year employee of the county or of one of the neighboring cities where they have a certain salary, and if we're trying to compete for that individual, the limitation to only hire at step one poses a problem. But it's also a potential liability if the board, and I can let Taylor speak to this, but if the board is seen as meddling in the recruitment process, it could be perceived as political. So for political reasons, maybe board members didn't want to give such and such person such and such salary. That could expose the district to some liability, according to general counsel. I don't know if you want to add to that.
Not much to add. It could reflect politically back on the board as a whole. So generally those decisions vesting with the general manager is a good idea. It provides some separation, but of course, the board can direct and make further changes to the personnel policy if desired down the line.
Yeah, I don't remember us ever being involved in hiring anyone except the general manager. I guess I wanted to make sure that wasn't the advanced step appointments wasn't something that went beyond an approved salary range that the board had already looked at.
It's a good question. You're absolutely right. It does not go beyond the general manager does not have authority to change the salary scale.
Okay. Thank you.
Not seeing any further questions. I'll move on. The recruitment and retention category. Again, we operate in a competitive labor market, especially in the context of recruitments aiming to attract experienced management and technical personnel. We do have 2 management positions here, not including mine, and one of them is now vacant. So to improve the recruitment flexibility, as we just discussed, I'm recommending expanding the advanced step hiring authority, recognizing prior full-time public agency service when determining vacation accrual rates for newly hired exempt employees. Again, this is a scenario where someone may have been in an organization, let's say Caltrans, for 20 years or 15 years, and they have X number of days vacation, and maybe they really want to come here and they really want to provide their expertise and help out staff here. But it's a question of, well, I get 5 weeks vacation. Now it's going to be down to 2. Is that really worth it? Or should I just ride out my next 5 years at Caltrans, or just an example? But that's the kind of thing that I would like to be able to negotiate with that employee, or consider their public agency service as credit towards our accruals.
And that does just reflect on accruals, not liability from past employment. I mean, somebody's got 2 months of vacation when they separate from their previous employment. We're not going to take that on.
Correct. It's not the same as advancing, hey, you've got a year of vacation stored up. We're going to go ahead and grant you that. No.
Okay.
It's just the accrual rate. Any other questions on this category? Okay, moving on. Some policy modernization and cleanup. Several sections of the personnel policy were redundant or outdated or unnecessary. Some of them were like literally repeating the same thing and two separate sections. So the recommended changes include some of those cleanup items. Also updating the org chart. I did want to just call out one thing. I was looking at the org chart that we have that was attached, and it's not going to be exactly this. And I just want to let the board know that the way it is as an attachment to the staff report in the reso, that assistant general manager, it makes it look like the assistant general manager is directly responsible for the accountants, the administrative services manager, and the fire chief. And that was not the intention. I think just org charts are funny in that way. It really is assistant general manager reports to the general manager, and under them is the operations crew. All the other positions, the admin manager, the fire chief from CAL FIRE, and the accountants, would still report to me. So I just wanted to clarify that one thing, and I'm not sure if that needs to be worked into a motion or not.
No, probably not for our purposes here, unless there's a desire by any of the directors to make any specific changes.
Thank you. So updating the org charts and classifications that are listed in there, removing outdated hiring language, again, consolidating some redundant provisions that were there that were just repeating itself, revising language regarding internal promotions, clarifying the district gift policy. The gift policy was a bit outdated at limiting gifts to staff at $25. It's usually around 50. So I think we put it to $49. Not really significant. If someone's getting a free lunch, it's, very possible it's above $25 these days. Removing outdated probationary vacation accrual provisions. This is one I just wanted to call out in our personnel policy. I believe it's for the first 6 months. The employee does not accrue vacation. And then when they hit 6 months, they get like back credit for the 6 months of vacation. So, under this policy, if someone has a trip planned to, I don't know, Disney World with their family, a month after they start, they wouldn't be able to do it because they don't have any vacation accrued. I guess that's not a great example because they'd have to accrue it anyway. But the point is they start with 0 and keep at 0 until month 6. And then the last one is streamlining personnel policy amendment process. In the current policy, it requires the board to consider policy updates in one meeting and then come back at a future meeting and approve them. So it's a 2-meeting process. And so streamlining that would just give the board the authority to be able to approve updates at one meeting. And finally, legal compliance. We did include something in here that updated language to reflect modern terminology when it comes to protected classes. And so we can talk about that if anyone would like. Also, district council identified that the layoff provisions contained in section 2050 might need some updating. Analysis had not been done in time for this staff report, but that's something we could always bring back or just wrap into the next update when we have an update with the MOU with the bargaining unit. As far as financial impact, not anticipating much of any. The only impact that we could have is with the consideration of prior public service credit for vacation accruals. That would mean that a new employee could potentially come in at a higher accrual level, and because there are some cash out rights to, well, maybe rights is the wrong word, entitlements in the MOU, that could result in more of a payout to an employee, but that it would be pretty negligible when looking at the grand scheme of things. So with that, I'll take any questions.
Anything from the board?
Just good work, good eye, finding all that stuff and updating it.
I guess I'm trying to still go back to your example, the vacation accrual kind of thing. My public service was you had to work the 6 months before you got to take any vacation, even though you were accruing it. And 6 months is not a very long time. That did not preclude when you hired, making an arrangement that, hey, I have something planned that I really want to do, and we're going to make allowance for me to do that, maybe without pay. I want to, I guess the last thing, the one thing I do not like is people that want to burn every sick hour, every vacation hour as soon as they have it. It speaks to just what's going to happen when you do get sick. But I don't know how to deal with that, and I don't think that those kind of things are going to get involved with this. So
Can I speak to that? Because
Yeah.
I really feel where you're coming from. And I think, I was talking to Ron about this the other day. When I was growing up, my dad worked for the power company as an electrician and would tell me, when you grow up, you want to get hooked up with a good company and stay there. And that was kind of the older way of thinking about things. And so personnel policies, in my opinion, were sort of set up sometimes to vet a person who could potentially be there long term, right? And so when they first start, they're, green and they don't know what they're doing. Hey, no vacation for you, and you're going to get minimal benefits. And as time goes on, if you can pass through those hoops and those obstacles, and you have the longevity, then you get kind of these pretty good benefits, right? In my experience in local government in California, I don't think this is true in every state, but people unfortunately jump around. And so then that means that especially for exempt employees, which this would apply to, these are folks who are farther along in their careers and are not, like, they've already been vetted at these other organizations. And so they're coming in and they're weighing quality of life, they're weighing work-life balance. They have real skills to contribute that we might want. We would, in my view, the district is competing with cities in the county. We're not really competing with other districts. And so it would put us at a bit of a disadvantage without this. That said, I still think we could work with it if the board felt that maybe this was a little too much. I'm no problem. But I wanted to put it out there for consideration.
Well, it makes sense to me because I think you're thinking of the next position we're hiring. We're not trying to hire someone brand new. We're trying to hire somebody that can bring good experience and skills to our district. So it makes sense to me.
it is a different work environment. One, the world we're in, plus the higher level recruits deserve a little more consideration. I was thinking more of the entry level kind of thing.
And a lot of this stuff like the vacation policy, that would be discussed anyway, right up front with the employee. I mean, it wouldn't come as a surprise to them that, oh, by the way, after they've been here, say, oh, by the way, you're not gonna accrue any vacation for another 6 months. And you probably, I would hope, could tell just on an interview process if that employee is going to do, like Chuck said, as soon as they get 6 months, they're going to, boogie on out for as much as they got. You could probably tell.
It's a kind of a bigger issue with sick leave, I think. I guess vacation, you've earned it, you take it. So we're probably spending too much time on something that's not really that important.
It's an interesting conversation, though, for sure.
I think we have faith that Greg is going to hire the right person.
Yeah, I think so too.
And this is just reaffirming that we have that faith.
So maybe it's time for public comment on general action item 9B.
If you're online, raise your hand, and in the boardroom, come to the podium. There is no public comment online.
Okay, nor here in the boardroom. So I will entertain a motion
I move that the board adopt resolution 2026-26, amending the district personnel policy.
I'll second that.
Could we have a roll call, please?
Director Cross,
Yes.
Director Hubbard,
Yes.
Director Womack,
Yes.
Vice President Sisenia.
Yes. And Laura, can you answer one question? 26 resolutions. Is that a record for half a year? Anywhere close?
We had my first year here, it was about that high as well.
Oh, well, yeah, we had policy. Yeah, the dust was really thick then. Okay. We'll go on to agenda item 10, public comment for items not on the agenda.
If you're online, please raise your hand, and in the boardroom, come to the podium. There is no public comment online.
Okay, we do have here in the boardroom.
Richard Margetson. Chuck brought this to my attention. I was already planning on it. But on June 14th, People Helping People lost an icon of the organization. Rosemary Krantz passed at the age of 91. Very involved in her community the entire time she lived here. I've known Rosemary's for 28 years. In some ways, she was a mother figure. In some ways, she was a grandmother figure, depending on the circumstance. Unbelievably kind, generous, caring person. Her, the obituary in the Estero Bay News was written by her daughter from down south, who wasn't very involved in what she did up here. So there's nothing in here about her People Helping People contributions. It was the organization she loved the most. Her women's group back 21 years ago was the first group to endorse Needs and Wishes. And she, her women's group took over the kitchen, cooking the hot dogs, hamburgers, whatever we had every year. Every year, she manned the kitchen from the time we opened until we closed, and then helped clean up. The last couple of years, she hadn't been able to put that many hours in, but she was bound and determined this last year. She was going to be there for the 20th. She came, was there for about an hour and a half. She was ecstatic that we went over $1 million raised for Nor Clinic and 40 Prado and all the other organizations over the years. She worked in our office. She trained a number of the future office managers for People Helping People. Her women's group, Central Coast Circle of Friends, on Mondays served meals out of the back of their cars down in Lila Kaiser Park in Morro Bay to the homeless, and then they moved that program over to the Vets Hall. And those ladies, there were 6, 7 of them. They cooked every week, brought food to the center to feed the homeless and the needy and the community, kind of like the community dinner here, but more geared towards the homeless over there and that. She worked every rummage sale for People Helping People. She worked every potluck. She was just totally involved. Like I said, she was an icon of People Helping People. She was our Volunteer of the Year award winner a number of years ago. This last year at our awards dinner, can I continue?
Yes.
Last year, she was the Lifetime Achievement Award winner, which was very timely because we were planning on doing it at some point and didn't think she would pass this year. She will be sorely missed by the organization. She'll be sorely missed by the people in this community that knew of her input. For those less fortunate, that was kind of her, after retirement, goal, was to help those less fortunate. There will be a celebration of life in August. We're trying to figure out a date. It will be at the community center. So I'll let Chuck know, and Chuck can pass it on, but sorely missed, wonderful lady. She got along with everybody. If you had a 5-minute conversation with her, she'd win you over. She was just a great human being. I don't know if Chuck has anything to say, but thank you.
I think you should name the kitchen after her, the Rosecrans Kitchen. I don't know what else. I mean, she'll still be hanging out there. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. Okay, agenda item 11, administrative and committee reports. Let's see, we have a written utilities department report. Any questions anybody wants to ask about that? We'll go on to the general manager's report then.
In here, but apologies, I don't see it in here, but there's really two main updates. One was B26, and I think we've talked quite a bit about that, but it's very big, an exciting project for the district. I look forward to working with the board and members of the community on that. Also wanted to call out that there is still a vacancy on the Emergency Services Advisory Committee. Here at the district, those appointments are made by individual board members, and this one happens to be Mr. Tom Cross. So if anyone is interested, they could talk to Tom, or they could look up the application directly on the district's website to fill that vacancy. Also wanted to mention that the period for submitting papers for candidacy to be on the board of directors opens, and I don't have it in front of me, but I believe it's July 13th.
13th, yeah.
Closes August
7th.
7th. Thank you, members of the public and the board. That would be done through the county. If you're interested, if you have questions, you can always call the district, and we could help guide you to where you need to go. I believe districts 2, 3, and 5 are up.
1, 2, 4.
Completely wrong.
No.
Oh, I did get to. So yeah, if you have any questions, I won't answer them, but someone here that knows what they're talking about. And that concludes my report.
You know, one thing I noted, I think it's Huntington Beach. There are periodic lawsuits. I think, we were threatened with one about at-large elections versus the district system, and the way they're getting around their at-large problem is going to ranked choice voting. I guess they were given that choice. You either go to districts or ranked choice. So, I mean, we had an interest in doing away with by district, because sometimes you don't have somebody in a certain part of town that wants to run. So ranked choice apparently is another way of satisfying that.
So I might add that the city of San Luis Obispo has already done ranked choice. So which is very close to us, of course, and it'll be interesting to see how that works. We did pass along a request on behalf of the board to our legal counsel, and they'll be preparing an analysis that should be coming to the board either for the August or September meeting that will look at those options.
Thank you. Let's see, Chamber of Commerce has a written report here. I guess what I would call attention to is the passport for the Festival of Flavors. I think that's what they call it. That's out there now. All the restaurants in town pick up a passport at the chamber or at Brightside Pizza during the day, and support your local restaurants. We have a LOCAC verbal report. Rich, did you go?
Yes, I actually did go, and actually it is in the packet.
Wrote up a report.
There is a report in the packet. There's a couple of things I want to address. Highlight. One would be when Dan Heimel gave his final draft report for the basic management. Part of that, it was a very good report, very informative. Well, one of the things that kind of bothered me. Oops, my microphone just died. Thanks, Chuck. There we go. Okay.
Stereo.
Yeah, really. having a bit of microphone merry-go-round here. One of the things that kind of bothered me was Dan mentioned that the ag usage is done by estimates. There's no real monitoring of ag use for water. And Bruce Gibson said that basically, well, we use an estimate. We've been doing it for, I don't know how long he's been doing it. He talked about aerial photos, and I think that the citizens of Los Osos would probably be pretty chagrined to know that they're just using an estimate for the ag people there. I'm thinking that, and the reason was, and that sort of floored me too, was it was quote unquote too expensive. They had talked about it in the past, didn't mention how long ago it was, and said that that was determined that it would be too expensive for the farmers to excuse me, to use monitoring devices on their usage. And I don't know, I think it would be, and I don't know who would advise the Board of Supervisors to look into this, but this seems to be a good time now to revisit that. And, I don't trust estimates. I trust hard data. And I don't know how we would go about doing that. I don't know if it's our job to tell the Board of Supervisors that, hey, this should be done, or what. I'm not really sure what the next step would be. And does anybody know what the next step would be?
I think I see someone who might know.
I would put out there that maybe the first step is raising that concern at the BMC. And this isn't a new concern for sure. It's a puzzler. I don't know, Chuck, if you want to speak to that.
Well, it's been mentioned again and again and again, and it's always been resistance because I think partially because it's new. It imposes a requirement on an ag water user that hasn't been imposed in the past, meters. And yet I thought I heard something about North County, maybe as part of their groundwater basin issues, going to meters on ag properties. So I think the precedent's been set. I think it was just a lift that didn't want to be done around here, is my honest. And I don't know how much more refined, but I agree that a number is a number, and measured number is better than an estimate.
Again, I don't know how long ago it had been discussed.
It's mentioned probably every 3 months.
Really? Okay.
For many years.
For years.
But yeah, and things change. And so, and again, that's my whole point is,
You've run to something there, maybe.
thank you.
My understanding is that the ag users don't have any constraints in terms of how much they pump.
No.
And so, I think,
Well, neither do the rural residential people with private wells.
right.
There's nothing that they don't report. They don't have to be a part of the solution in some minds. It's been a sore subject for a while.
Okay.
So how does that work?
Well, I'm kind of new, so I'm not.
No, I appreciate. Sometimes the question needs to be asked besides from the people who are constantly dealing with that.
Okay. One other thing that I was wondering about, and Jeff Edwards was saying how the Broderson well was not functioning the way it should.
The leach field.
The leach field. Okay, the leach field. Okay, that's I wasn't sure if he was talking about wells, leach fields, or whatever. Again, I'm not the sharpest. I thought these were new. I'm not the sharpest hook in the tackle box, but I really don't understand how you can tell if a leach field is working or not working, and how I don't even know where the heck the leach field per se is. I'm looking at you, Chuck.
That's above the end of the paved section of Broderson above highway.
Okay.
That's where that leach field is. It is a hot topic with the Basin Management Committee. It's on the agenda for discussion. Just how effective is it being? Where's the water going? That's all part of the next 2 or 3 months of basin management discussion.
Okay, I did not know. I'm gonna have to start going to basin management meetings.
Highly recommend.
Yes.
Stay at home. Zoom.
No, I'd rather be here and soak up the ambiance of the
Talked about harvest wells down in Cluster by the Sea because there's going to be so much water coming through the Broderson leach field, but that has.
If I could put out there, and I've received this question too about the Broderson leach field and its impact on the basin. And Ron and I had the pleasure of discussing with Spencer Harris, who the BMC contracts as their hydrogeologist. And there's a long explanation for how they came to the metric that they did on the Broderson leach field. Unfortunately, it is not a simple thing to convey, but it does involve physical observation of water underground as well as modeling. And I would just put out there that if the board did want to hear a presentation on that, we could certainly ask Cleve Harris to come here and do that for us. I imagine we'd have to pay for it, but I don't think it would be terribly expensive and could clear up some things and some questions that we get from members of the public.
That might be a good idea over the next couple of months because the BMC will be revisiting all the metrics, water level, chlorides, all of those kind of things. So this fall, there's going to be a lot of new information and maybe time for presentation to our board. That's a good idea.
Okay, so probably revisit that at the end of the meeting here on the
Again and again,
agenda
and again,
items.
again and again and again.
Okay. That's all I have. I didn't have, I wasn't able to present anything from the CSD because everybody's been really busy and I never got anything, but that's okay. I told Deborah, she had a meeting with you guys the day before, so didn't seem to be a big deal.
She knows what's going on.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Okay, that's all I got.
Okay. Parks and Recreation Committee, no meeting, no report. We've talked a lot about Sunnyside. UAC, we talked a lot about the BMC, the annual report that was being sent to the court. Most of the discussion focused on the water level metric and problematic well. We adjusted elevations a couple years ago and kind of like apples and oranges, I guess, with what we did with one of the wells. And so we took it out of the equation for the water elevation metric. We went with the other 4 monitoring wells that we had solid data for. I think we looked at an alternative analysis using that extra well too. So that was the big topic of discussion, but all of those metrics will be discussed at length over the next couple of months. Chlorides, water level, all of them. Finance Advisory Committee.
Just the usual, the committee voted to approve the warrants and receive and file the financials.
Okay, I actually caught that meeting the other night. I don't know. Every month I say I'm going to. Finally did. Emergency services, no meeting, no report. There'll be a lot coming up in the future, near future.
Because we do have that potential fire tax increase in mind.
Yes, and the reconstruction or revisit the station, the structure itself. So that'll be coming along too.
And there's an opening. And I really like the committee. We're going to be discussing some very exciting things. So if you know anyone or you're interested.
That's true. We do have an opening. Okay, thanks for that reminder. BMC, I kind of just talked about the big issue there. It's the updating of the metrics and the finalization of the annual report. Director's announcements of district and community interest and reports on attendance at public meetings. trainings, anything like that?
Not this month that I can
Okay.
think of.
Response to previously asked questions. I don't think there's anything probably in that queue right now. Come back to us.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Okay, we'll go to public comment for items on the administrative committee reports and the consent agenda.
If you're online, please raise your hand and in the boardroom, come to the podium. There is no public comment online.
Okay, here in the boardroom, we have one.
Richard Margetson. Richard, good question about the egg and it's been asked for a long time, but there's never been, what I think would be helpful is to get them together, ensure the privacy of the information, explain how vital it is to being able to monitor, improve the basin, the projects, when you're picking projects, where to move wells, where to do things. And I think if it was explained correctly, that they would be a help to the community, and we're never going to tell them they can't pump or how much they can pump. We just want to know how much. Same with the subdivision east of South Bay and north of Los Osos Valley Road. North, yeah. I'm sure people in there, if you got them together and explained, why it was important, I think they would do it. I just don't think. And then the other thing is, come up with the number. 87% of this community is hooked to the sewer. Cabrillo is not hooked to the sewer, but we know their data because we get it from Golden State. So you're talking about a minor percentage. Come up with the number of actual properties they are that are on wells, which I'm sure is probably pretty easy to come up with, and in the unsewered part of the community, the subdivision part of the community, and start putting some numbers together and maybe some cost estimates and stuff. And there might be a grant out there for doing this to help the BMC, or maybe the BMC comes up with the money to put, meters on. They can't be that expensive compared to some of the other projects that you guys have put together, and new wells and moving interties and all that. But I think it starts with the basic, get them together, and the big thing, and because it's property rights for them, but if you guaranteed their privacy rights to that information, I mean, I can't call the district and ask what my neighbor's using on a monthly basis. It would be the same thing for them. I think if we're gonna have true numbers, that's probably a start.
Okay, no other comments here in the boardroom. Yeah, that's always something that's bothered me too, because I hear occasionally from them that they don't feel represented on the BMC, and like, who's representing us, and no one talks to us. So I don't know what that's all about, but I think a little workshop maybe with those people might be in order. Okay, consent agenda items. Anything anybody wants to pull for a separate consideration? Probably should have done that before public comment. Not exactly anything too critical. Okay, I'll entertain a motion regarding those items. Okay, I'll move to approve the consent agenda and receive and file the committee and administrative reports.
I'll second.
Okay, you got it.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
I
I need to do a roll call.
Oh, do
Do
we
we?
have resolution in there?
We do.
Oh, you snuck another one in.
Vice President Sesenia,
Yes.
Director Cross,
Yes.
Director Hubbard,
Yes.
Director Womack.
yes,
Thank you.
good catch.
Still looking for it.
I don't see it.
Okay.
It's
Oh, there we go.
Unfortunately, the E is missing, so it's right after the financial report. It's for the
Okay.
LAIF account.
Thank you. You always have us on our toes. We appreciate that. Believe me. So we passed the consent agenda. Future agenda items. Anything outside of what we've discussed tonight?
None for me.
As usual, the list is long, always. Closing board comments. Anything from anyone? Just please respect your neighbors this weekend. Some people want to get crazy and have fun, but
These travels in Los Osos.
yeah, absolutely. Respect your neighbors' pets and
Yeah.
and take it easy on our public safety officers. With that, we'll adjourn the meeting. Thank you.